Hello and welcome. You're tuned into the best in paranormal talk radio. This is Beyond the Darkness, and it is the season, folks. It's the season of love and giving and family and friends and hearth and home. And you know, where do a lot of these come from? Where do a lot of these traditions that we deal with around the holidays come from? And it's the time of year, too, to visit with a friend of ours, Jeff Belanger, because he has the answer to these questions, and he's been with us over the last few Christmas time to talk about these and update us on new stories. And today we're going to take a look at Krampus and Christmas creatures, both great and small. And we've got a brand new song that we're going to break on the show today that was written by Jeff Belanger. And I get to do a very small cameo, fun bit in the song, so we'll play that a little bit later on in the show. Joining us now, though, is legendary researcher and investigator, author, Jeff Belanger. Jeff, it's always great to have you back. Thanks for being here today.
Hey, Dave. Good to be with you, too, man. And happy Krampusnacht, St. Nicholas Day, Christmas, all that stuff.
Right. We're fresh off Krampus Day and St. Nicholas Day, which were the 5th and 6th. Right. And here we are. We're on the other side. You and I are both here. That's a good sign, I guess.
Right. We're alive. Yeah,
right. Krampus didn't come for us. And let's, you know, you and I talked briefly about this a year or so ago when the Krampus movie came out. You were very excited about it. I was very disappointed in it. I just thought it had such potential and hype, and I just thought, what a crap movie. Now, it's great that they are looking at it, but of course, that wasn't the first Krampus movie. There's been other lower-budget Krampus movies, which I've been fearful to watch for the reason that the big one came out and it sucked. I'm fearful of what the other smaller, lesser studios have done with it, but I think this holiday season, I'm going to check them out anyway and give them a shot. But Krampus, a lot of people, the only thing they have in their mind now is this weird Santa Claus dressed up cloven hoof beast from Beauty and the Beast, you know, with a distorted Santa's face kind of attached to it now from that movie. Talk to us a little bit about Krampus and give people a little bit of a history and background again that may not be familiar, and how long this being was really tied to the Christmas tradition.
So there's a lot going on, and that's a really big question. So first of all, the idea of a creature with cloven hooves that walks upright like a man goes back thousands of years. It's a satyr, you know. It's the god Pan is which you've seen with, like, he's got the flute, which is we call the Pan flute. He's got the devil horns. He's got the hooves like an animal, but the upper torso of a man, and it's where we get the word panic and so on. So this concept has been around a long time, and it's a pagan concept. And when Christians came along, that Pan figure evolved into a pretty clear understanding of what the devil must look like. That's when Pan, who was not really necessarily a devil figure, although he was mischievous and so on. He wasn't like pure evil out to just destroy souls. But that's kind of the figure that it took on. So in Germany, in German folklore, Krampus comes along on December 5th. And the reason for that is because December 6th is St. Nicholas Day. And St. Nicholas brings all the gifts to all the good boys and girls. But he's got this cohort, and Krampus is the enforcer. Krampus is the one who comes along the night before, and he finds all the naughty children, and he scoops them up. He puts them into a burlap sack. And you have to realize, if you're a kid lying in bed, the first thing you're going to hear are the chains rattling against the floor and against his body, and you know he's coming closer. And you hear the clomp of those hooves hitting the wood of your floor, you know, thunk, thunk, getting closer, and you hear his breath like an animal, and he comes in and he's got devil horns and fur and a long red forked tongue and this wiggly sack, and he scoops you up, he puts you in the sack, he brings you back to his lair, and he eats you. You're dead. There's no surviving Krampus. No survivors. That is the punishment for being a naughty child at Christmas time. And then the 6th comes, and St. Nicholas has nothing but good kids. He's free to do all the good work of the holiday with his hands clean because Krampus took care of the bad stuff.
Wow, isn't that a heartwarming, charming story, Jeff? I bet your daughter loves cuddling up with you as you open up the family book of Christmas carols to share these stories. How many years of therapy have you got her booked in for?
Yeah, no, I've been saving since she's been born. I knew ahead of time it was just going to be a long road to hoe. So, yeah, no, that's where it comes from. But the thing is, Krampus isn't alone. He's not the only figure from folklore that's a cohort. And for someone posted something, and I've come to love it. And the thing I loved about the Krampus movie, the big screen one that you and I talked about last year, what I loved about it is just that it was there. And I feel like, though it was hard for me to step outside of my body as like such a Krampus fan, I was just so happy to see a movie about Krampus. I looked past a lot of flaws, and I get it. I get as a movie, as a horror film fan, just like you, it's got problems. I get it, but I think they hit the spirit of what Krampus represents, and that's really cool. So the other day, a friend of mine on Facebook posted this picture that showed this bloody Santa in a field and Krampus like tearing him apart. And I was like, oh, wait a minute, you can't post that. That's not right. Like, I have no problem with you bloodying Santa Claus if that's what you're into, whatever, you know. But it wouldn't be Krampus that does it, because Krampus is not Santa's enemy. If you look at some of the many, many old postcards that are out there, you see tons of pictures of Krampus. And sometimes you see Krampus and St. Nicholas together, like making the rounds. And Krampus takes care of the bad kids, and St. Nicholas takes care of the good kids. They work together. This is the original good cop, bad cop.
Now, in the history of sidekicks to Santa, Krampus is not the only one, but is he the first known sidekick and yin to Santa's yang?
Well, you know, it's tough, because the thing with folklore is it's really hard to put a start date on a lot of folklore. It's difficult, you know, to chronicle exactly the first time something shows up. I can tell you Krampus became wildly popular around the mid-1800s all the way into the early 1900s. This was his heyday. This is when everybody celebrated him, postcards aplenty. He showed up in parades and Christmas parades and so on, and this was really his heyday. And then since then, he's kind of gone away. But then lately, you know, thanks to this movie and people like us talking about it, he seems to be kind of lurking back from the shadows. I think we must need him for some reason. But he's by far not the only one. I mean, almost every European country has their own version of some sort of monster that comes around the Yules, comes around the solstice. And you have to realize, too, Dave, if you're talking about, like, Northern Europe, you live in 3 seasons. You live in the spring, summer, and fall. And you work those 3 seasons in order to survive the winter. It's a scary time. Do I have enough food? Will my roof hold up under the snow? You know, do I have enough supplies? Do I have enough firewood to keep my family warm? What happens if my roof collapses? Where will I go? What will I do? It's a scary time, and it's a time when, if you're a farmer, hunter, gatherer for 3 of those seasons, you have a lot of time on your hands. And when people are unoccupied, their mind wanders, and you hear that wind whipping through the trees out there, you know, that sound that you don't hear the other seasons of the year, and suddenly it starts to sound like the cries of you know, anguished spirits and angry spirits, and how do you keep them out, and what's lurking out there in the dark. So it's very easy for these creatures to be born. So putting a start date is really difficult. But, you know, the Germans also gave us the Belsnickel, which is, that translates to Nicholas in furs. And this was also a cohort of Santa, but he didn't eat your children. He just beat the hell out of them.
So are there different stages and levels? Do you have, first you face the Belsnickel, and he comes out and sorts you out, and if you're not, you know, changed from that, then we send out Krampus, who decides, right, you know what, hey, you got your one step, you missed it, now it's feeding time. And then Santa comes along and says, okay, look, I don't have to deal with the riffraff now. All of the undesirables are out of my club. All of a sudden I'm making him sound like a mob boss. And Santa then will deliver to the children that remain, which seems like a pretty good way. Boy, I hope his computer systems don't ever hiccup, because what if those lists shifted? Right?
That would be awful. It'd be just terrible.
Horrible.
Absolutely terrible. So Belsnickel could be played by any number of people. So this year in the village it might be me, and next year it might be you. And you go around house to house, and you'd say, oh, hello, Dave, do you have any naughty children in your house? And you might say, oh, yeah, this one right here. You know?
So you would employ neighbors to come beat your children for you?
Well, you've been beating your kids all year, and it's not doing any good. So
hey, allegedly,
outside enforcer.
Allegedly, I've been beating my children all year.
No proof. But you know what I mean? Like back then, corporal punishment was pretty normal, and if they're still misbehaving, clearly you need to call in a heavy, to take care of this, because your own fear tactics aren't working anymore. So, the Belsnickel might walk in and ask, are there any bad kids here? And you say, yeah, this one. And the Belsnickel would take you back to the house and behind the house, maybe tie you up to a tree and just beat you with a switch of sticks. The whole idea that you would fly right by the time Santa Claus comes and you'd be well-behaved by then, and it allows you to kind of correct your behavior. So that's like Krampus Light. But there's another creature.
Krampus Light, 1/3 less punishment, right.
You picture Krampus outside in the sled, with his feet up, listening to the radio, and Belsnickel walks out. I couldn't reach him, Krampus. I tried. I beat him and I beat him. All right. I got this.
So he's like Belsnickel is the meat tenderizer.
Right. I got to get up, huh? All right, let's do this. Krampus gets up. Get my sack. I'm going in.
Boy, if I had a dime for every time I've said that.
Merry Christmas, Dave.
Yeah, Merry Christmas. So that is that's kind of the Belsnickel. And did they kind of live at the same times in history? I mean, were people referring to Krampus and Belsnickel, or did one subtly replace the other when maybe it wasn't as politically correct to eat the children? Belsnickel, his more PC cousin, came in and said, "Let me handle this."
Yeah, good God, you people are monsters. So yeah, no, they were around the same time. It's just depending on the family, which creature you needed to employ. Now, when the there was the migration over to the United States in Pennsylvania Dutch country, Belsnickel is still celebrated to this day. And in fact, there's an episode of The Office where Dwight Schrute shows up in the office dressed in furs, holding a stick, and he's the Belsnickel. And that's so it's made it into popular culture as well. And the funny thing about him is I do some shows for PBS here in New England, and a couple of years ago someone said, hey, you should go to the Smith Harris House in Niantic, Connecticut. Instead of Santa Claus, they bring in the Belsnickel. And that was the first time I'd heard of him. And I went, oh, man, we got to get on this. And so we go down there, and we get the film crew, and we meet him, and it's just awesome. Now, instead of kids meeting St. Nicholas, they meet Belsnickel, and to answer the question you're about to ask, no, he doesn't beat the kids that come to see him, which would be kind of a thing. I mean, that would make national news, I imagine. And this is one of these historic homes that's always trying to raise money to preserve the place. And I was like, any attention's good attention. I'm just saying. Maybe this year Belsnickel just beats a couple of them. But anyway, so we went down there, and it was amazing. This guy does this each year, and he talks about how he tells them the stories about what the Belsnickel does, and I think the stories, I guess, are enough to make those kids kind of stand in line.
Yeah, that's spooky. And we've had a little bit of fun with it, of course. It's a horrific part of where we were, but a lot of these legends are created in order to keep our children in line, right? That's why we don't go out into the woods, because the big bad wolf is there. That's why we've always kind of had these traditions set in place, and there had to be repercussions for our actions, which, talking about the overly politically correct, we're kind of in that place where I don't think we've ever needed the Belsnickel and Krampus more than we do right now, Jeff.
Well, and that's the thing about any legend, is that they're waiting for us. We summon them. We do. Like that's as real gets. And you can say I'm talking like a paranormal guy right now or whatever, but we summon what we need. We summon St. Christopher. We summon Santa Claus every year. We summon the Easter Bunny. We summon Krampus. We summon Belsnickel. And if those monsters have to just lurk back to our lives, they're ready to do so. Think about one of the most popular Christmas songs ever, right? The most wonderful time of the year. There's the line in the song, there'll be scary ghost stories and tales of the glories of Christmases long, long ago. And growing up, I remember I didn't tell ghost stories around Christmas time. That wasn't a tradition in my family. And I remember thinking, like, who does that? Well, it was really popular. It was popular in the 40s and 50s and 60s. And that's something else we got away from was the fear in that time of year. And that's a tradition that goes back millennia. Before Jesus, that was what winter solstice was. It was a time to be afraid. The sun's going away. It may not come back. The days are getting shorter and shorter. Is it going to go away entirely? Will we have enough food? All these questions that we ask. And of course that gives rise to monsters. But the Belsnickel is a great story. But I found one recently that makes the Belsnickel just look like a Disney movie, and I don't mean a villain.
Well, I'll tell you what. I want to hear about this other one, the creepy creature. But before we move on from Krampus, I think it's a good time to play the song. Now, tell me, what's the inspiration? How did you decide? And I know we've played on our show in the past your other Christmas classic.
So, what's so fun? Like,
I'm sorry that I laughed when I said that, but what is it? My Christmas Tree is Haunted, right?
Right, a classic. That's right up there with Silent Night. I mean, I remember being in church last year, and the priest led everyone in and singing of it. It was wonderful. It was very touching.
What church? Are you sure this wasn't just a drunk in an alley who you might have overheard singing it?
Might have been that. Now that you mention it, there were. Yeah, maybe that was it. So I don't know what it is about this time of year, but it just makes me irreverent. I can't help but celebrate all of the weird and odd stuff. And so I do a podcast called New England Legends, and my partner Ray Ozier is he's a musician and near where I live and knows a lot of musicians. And he's like, we should write a Krampus song. And I was like, I would be the guy to do that. And so I ran home, I grabbed my guitar, and it was just one of those fits of inspiration where I just started jotting down some lyrics and playing a couple of chords. And then we got these guys, they're called Sidetracks. They're all local musicians who come together just to record original music. And I said, can we knock this thing out? And then I called my buddy Dave and said, I need this poem read in the middle. And it came together rather quickly. So I think without further ado, we should just play the thing.
All right. Well, Merry Christmas, kids. You've got to hear the Christmas classic, My Christmas Tree is Haunted. And now it's time for Krampus Night, right here on Beyond the Darkness.
Remember the 5th of December. It's Krampus night here again. Remember the 5th of December. Bad kids will meet their end. As Krampus comes just once a year, the naughty kids will live in fear. The chains will rattle, the footsteps clunk. Scream, little child, there's nowhere to run. As Krampus has a burlap sack, he carries it upon his back. While inside bad children squeal, they don't know they're his next meal.
Krampus lives in an ancient lair where shadows dwell with snake-like hair. Watch where you step, for bones will break. If your children are naughty, Krampus will take everything they are and bring them here. Be thankful, it's only once a year.
Remember the 5th of December. It's Krampus night here again. Remember the 5th of December. Bad kids will meet their end. Haven't you wondered on Christmas Day why the bad kids were taken away? Krampus did it, this is true. You better behave, and your ass is through. I've got a secret you have not heard. Believe me, kiddies, every word. Santa and Krampus are actually friends. Don't yell for Saint Nick when you meet your end. Remember the 5th of December. It's Krampus night here again. Remember the 5th of December. The bad kids will meet their end. Remember the 5th of December. Well, it's Krampus night here again. Remember the 5th of December. The bad kids will meet their end.
Why, I can almost hear that song being sung by children's choirs around the world right now, Jeff. Another instant classic hit. Boy, that creepy Vincent Price-like narration in the middle, ooh, it made my blood run cold. What a great job. I hope you paid that guy a lot of money.
He made double what I made on the song. So, really, I took all the money I made from it and multiplied by 2 and gave it to him. So, it's, thanks for your help with it.
It was a pleasure. I love doing that stuff with you. And I've also had a great chance to be a voice on one of your episodes of our New England Legends. So I love doing that. And you guys have a great show. And I want to just mention for people that aren't familiar with it, Jeff does these micro podcasts. They're like 5 to 12 minutes long, and he explores some of the history and mysteries behind some of the most famous legends from New England. And they're great. They're really interesting stories. And you've got everything from the supernatural to even baseball legends. And I love that. But it's just a great little show. And how can people find you? What's the best way to listen to your podcasts and keep up with what you're doing?
Yeah, you can get them all wherever you get your podcasts, but definitely iTunes or Google Play or Stitcher. You can subscribe for free. They're all free. Our website, OurNewEnglandLegends.com, has all of them, all the past episodes, and we're doing them every week. They come out every Thursday at noon, and we've been doing that since August. We haven't missed a single week, and it was neat. I've challenged myself, like, can I do this? Can I come up with a story, and can we get it together every single week? And now we're hitting our stride. I feel like, I've got so many ideas. I've got this document that I just keep writing down, like, we got to do this. We got to do this. And I mean, I've got 50 to go right now, and adding to that list constantly. So it's been so much fun. Like you said, baseball legends, UFO abductions, monsters in the water, ghost stories, everything and anything. And in fact, next week, we're going to explore one of the most legendary Christmas songs ever, Jingle Bells, which was written in Medford, Massachusetts, and has quite a story behind it. It's that you probably have never heard before, but that's going to be fun for next week.
Well, I know we've got a lot of other characters to talk about, a lot of other creepy Christmas traditions and characters to discuss. But what's so great about Legends, right, is that we're always uncovering new ones. And you've got a new character you've never spoken about that you're going to share. Is this because it was just so horrific that you decided to hold it back, or what made you decide to come forward now?
Well, it's fun. I give a program each December now called Creepy Christmas, and I talk about all these stories and the origins of the holiday and how we got our various traditions. And the idea is to just, I think like a lot of people, I feel like Christmas may have lost its way. I feel like it's been commercialized, and it's been this and it's been that, and you can't help but get Scroogey and Grinchy as you get older. And it started with, years ago, I was hanging a wreath on my front door for Christmas, and I went, why am I doing this? And it wasn't a moment of like, I don't want to celebrate Christmas or anything like that. I was just like, no, really, why a wreath? Why am I putting this here? My dad did on our house as a kid. My grandfathers did. But why? And I started asking those questions and just kind of chasing down the history of it. And then when you do that, you find all these little things. And the more I've been doing this program in front of audiences and talking about it on radio shows, someone will come up to me and be like, oh, when I was growing up, they told me about the blah, blah, blah. And then, you jot a note down and you go home and you go, holy cow, how did I miss that? And this was one of them where you hear it on the wind and you come home and you say, all right, I got to look this thing up. And then you find this story is so good that I mean, you wait. Next year, you're going to see a movie written by me, starring Père Fouettard.
Père Fouettard, which sounds like a great jeans company, doesn't it?
Yeah, I guess it could be like couture,
exactly.
design clothes. But the story is so deliciously awful. It's so gruesome that I advise everyone to just turn this off right now. Just shut off.
Hey, wait, hold on a minute. No, that's the complete opposite of what we're trying to get done here, Jeff. We want people to listen to this episode.
Run away, turn it off. It's reverse psychology, Dave.
I gotcha. All right. So now, is this story safe for children that might be listening, or is this one that maybe we want to reconsider for children?
Oh, absolutely not safe for children. But but I guess if you got by Krampus, you're still with it.
Right, exactly.
You might be able to handle it.
All right, what have you got?
So this goes back to this is in like the Belgium and French area of Europe, and the story shows up around 1150. So this one goes back a long, long way, and it's the story of this evil butcher who kidnaps 3 lost children, and then he murders them by slitting their throats. He carves them up into meat and puts them in a salting tub. Good times, right? So St. Nicholas shows up at the door.
You and I have different versions of good times, but okay.
So then this is right around Christmas time in December. And so St. Nicholas shows up at the door, and the butcher is trying to say, like, hey, it's so great to have you here. What an honor. I will give you my best cuts of meat as a gift because you're Père Noël, you're Father Christmas, and so on. Well, St. Nicholas knows something's up because he's pretty much omniscient here, right? So he resurrects these 3 children from the dead and sends them back to their parents, alive, thank goodness, a miracle of Christmas. But then, instead of just leaving the butcher behind, Santa sees an opportunity, and he says, look, what you did was just beyond awful, but I'm going to give you a chance to repent. I want you to work with me. I want you to become Père Fouettard, which translates to Father Whipper. And what he asks him to do is be his eternal servant, who he goes around with a whip, like in one hand, and he's covered in a cloak, and he goes around and he beats bad children, very much like the Belsnickel. So he's basically a cannibalistic butcher turned Santa's servant.
Well, this sounds like kind of a mixture between the Belsnickel and Krampus, because there's beating and eating going on.
That's right. Yeah, that's you're right, and that's what happens with legends. And if you think about where Belgium is geographically and so on, it makes sense that you would have the influence of the German influence and then the French influence and so on. So so this creature then becomes.
I love that Santa Claus truly is kind of a mob boss. He just bumps into some of the weirdest characters, and he's like, I could use you. It's better to have you in my pocket than it is to have you out there roaming the streets where you could be a problem for me later.
You're going to work for me.
You're going to work for me. I got things for you to do, my friend.
So Père Fouettard becomes this very much like a Belsnickel character, where he goes around and he's whipping the bad children into submission. But he started as a cannibalistic butcher.
Jeez. So this is kind of the Sweeney Todd influence in there as well.
Right.
Everything you want in a Christmas story.
Right. I just picture the movie, Dave, right? It opens up and there's these kids lost and come with me. Oh, and you're scared and you're like, this is awful. You don't hurt children. That's the worst thing you can do. And then you see the butchering and your stomach's turning, and then Santa barges in, kicks in the door, What's going on here? Oh, hey, look what I got. Look, you want some steaks? I got some great steaks, very lean. It's like veal.
Right.
What?
I'm thinking he's just left a plate out with a glass of Chateau Bordeaux or so for Santa, and a plate of nice, freshly cut meat to eat. Yes.
Are those fava beans and a Chianti? Wait a minute.
Very nice.
I know. Good time. So I think it's interesting that every culture is going to adopt, create, whatever it is, some version of an enforcer, some version of the consequence of the holiday, because they understood it is a time for joy and gift giving, and that goes back to Saturnalia, which is centuries BC. It goes back to Yule, where you would give gifts and you would, all men were equal. You'd drink from the same drinking horn, because we know we need to count on each other in wintertime. And so there's that joyous part of it, but there's also hey, don't forget, you can't be a jerk, and otherwise you're going to pay the price for it.
Here it is. It's already laid out in front of me, Jeff. Right?
Yeah.
It's Christmas. Things are going to hell in a handbasket. when suddenly, in all four corners of the earth, all of Santa's minions start playing themselves out, right? Start appearing and doing these horrific things. And they're all over the world. You've got cannibalistic Santa helpers. You've got the Krampus guy. You've got the Belsnickel. You've got Black Peter and so many of these different characters, right? And through the whole thing, everybody's just waiting for the arrival of Santa Claus to save them from this danger, right? And at the very end of the scene, when you show the family that we've followed throughout the whole deal that survived, they're the survival family. At the very end, as they're about to meet their bloody fate, the door blasts open and there's Santa and they're like, oh my God, thank you. This is so amazing. This is it. And then they're begging for his forgiveness or for his help. And he goes, silly people, you do realize they work for me. And when they all look up at Santa, then we start barraging the screen with flashes of all the horrific things that all of the family members have done through the years. So you realize that this is the reckoning. And then Santa just steps back out of the room, and then you see the room start to fill up with every one of the characters from around the world. And then it fades to black with the sounds of screams and jingle bells. What do you think? Have we got a classic on our hands?
I think whoever's listening to this in Hollywood is just writing it down and going, all right, well, I got the next one.
Got the next one. Let's sell it. All right, we have to take a break. We'll come back. We've got more Christmas miracle fun right here on the best in paranormal talk radio. This is Beyond the Darkness. Ho, 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 ho.
Beyond the Darkness.
Let's continue to spread the Christmas cheer. And what's the best way to do that? Well, it's getting somebody on your list. Paranormal Challenge on DVD. That's right, I've got it. I've signed it. It's waiting for you. The complete collection, every episode of the hit Travel Channel miniseries in one collector's set, autographed by me. And I've got that available only $30 a set. I also have copies of my book, The Other Side, for only $10. And if you're interested in either one of those autographed, just email me, dave@darknessradio.com, or I can send both for just $40. So email me, dave@darknessradio.com, and we will get it taken care of, invoice you, and then as soon as the payment clears, we will be sending you out your brand new DVD set. It's a 3 DVD set with the entire, I think it's 14 episode series, and the book The Other Side that I wrote on ghost hunting and the paranormal. So if you're interested, go ahead and email me now, dave@darknessradio.com. As a matter of fact, one of my special guest judges on an episode of Paranormal Challenge is our guest tonight on our show as we talk about, I like this better, Tim. Tim, you're not Tim, you're Jeff. I like this better, Jeff. Krampus and the Sadistic Servants of Santa. That's our new title for this. Now that I've heard the first half of the show, I've realized just what a weird, twisted world we really live in, that we've called upon all of these creatures, and we haven't even hit all of them. Let's cover a couple more and then talk about some of the other dark mysteries behind Christmas, if you don't mind. But I mentioned when we were kind of rattling off the names, Black Peter. Can you tell us a little bit about him?
Yeah, so Black Peter this is an interesting one because Black Peter's going to go away. You know, we talked earlier about how Krampus and Belsnickel are making a comeback. Black Peter is going to leave us, and with good reason. So the story, this one comes from the Netherlands, and it's around the mid-1800s. There's a Moor child who is rescued by Santa Claus and then basically becomes his servant and slave. And similar to like a Belsnickel, Santa comes and does the good work, and the Black Peter, because he's a dark-skinned person, goes around and he will either discipline or, in the most extreme cases, he will abduct the bad kids. And he's still celebrated today in the Netherlands, and they have these Christmas parades, these St. Nicholas parades, and Black Peter is always depicted as a white person in blackface. And that's racist. That's racist over there. It's racist over here. It's racist everywhere. And in recent years, it was a couple of years ago, CNN covered back in 2014 how there's starting to be some real protests to these parades because they're saying, like, this is not cool, right? This is not a good thing. And plus, it really kind of sullies the whole Santa Claus story, you know, that Santa would have a slave. I mean, that doesn't seem right at all. The only slave Santa's supposed to have are the elves. Poor guys.
Yeah, and that's perfectly fine. We can forgive it if you're a bunch of height-challenged midgets that have little fingers and work well with toys. We'll forgive the fact that you're indentured servants to the jolly old fat man, but no blackface. We can't deal with that.
Yeah, but that's so. I think what you're going to see is he's going to go away. They're going to stop doing the parades, and they're going to just kind of quietly put it in the past as something that's a little bit embarrassing.
Are there no black people in the Netherlands? No. Can they not just, I don't know, employ somebody to play that role?
No, I think there's like 4. And but
there's like 4, and they're on work release or what? What, they're not allowed to do that stuff?
No, it's just, but that's not how he's depicted ever. And yes, of course, there's black people in the Netherlands, but like it's not. But that's not how he's depicted. He's depicted in blackface, and so I think you're going to see. Are you going to see it go away, or alter, or change? Because that's what legends do. They change year after year to suit us, to suit our modern times, and they will be what we need them to be because they're a creation of all of us. You know, it's a collective creation. Which sounds weird, but it's true. Like, we all contribute to them.
I think we got to get Quentin Tarantino in on a throwback 70s blaxploitation movie version of Black Peter, where he ain't taking Santa's nonsense anymore, and he cuts out on his own to cut his own swath of joy and justice. What do you think?
Yeah, no, it'd probably be up his alley.
Yeah.
But if he's not already doing the other movie that we wrote for him.
I got to keep just giving away these $1 million ideas.
I know.
Damn it.
Next Christmas, we're going to be sitting in the theater together, sharing some popcorn, going, oh, my God, we've just been robbed.
We've been robbed. Or we have to start writing a lot of apologies to people around the world.
Right. Packed movie theater, maybe, $100 million the first weekend, and we're going, damn it, we didn't even get free tickets.
That's right. Well, I will. I'm kind of a big shot. I don't know if you've heard of me. I'm a paranormal radio guy, so I get free movies all the time. I can't go see good movies, but the scary ones I always get into for free.
Right here. Here's 2 tickets. All right. Please talk about it. So there's another, but so it's not just human figures too. There's one that is a new addition for me this year, and it comes from Wales in the United Kingdom, and it's called the Mari Lord, and that translates to the gray mare. And this is a horse that rises from the dead every Christmas and goes door to door. And what the horse does is it's depicted, and it has been for literally almost 250 years now. You take the skull of a real horse, they put it on a pole, and then they put like a cloak, a white or gray cloak around the skull. And a person will stand under the skull and hold the pole and be the Mari Lod. And 6 or 7 other guys will go around with that horse, and they'll go door to door to houses, especially on Christmas Eve, and they'll sing a song, and basically they'll in Welsh they'll sing wassailing. They'll sing something that's more or less the message is, can we come into your home? And then the homeowners answer back, no, you cannot. And then they say again, come on, let us come in, it'll be great. And they say, no, you cannot. And then eventually the homeowners say, yes, you can. And they come inside, and the whole group are offered alcohol and food. And
I think that song already exists, isn't it? Baby, It's Cold Outside?
Oh, that's the song about date rape, Dave. That's a different.
Allegedly. No, it's not. It's a loving couple.
Are you kidding? He's all spelled out right
No,
there.
It's a loving couple being playfully coy with one another. Jeff, stop looking at all the. Well, you are here to look at the dark side of Christmas, so I guess I'll forgive you for that. All right.
That song is, every time I hear it for years now, all I hear is just like, what's in this drink? And you go, yeah, a roofie is in that drink. Run, honey, just run. Call the cops. It's not going to end well. So the Mari Lord going door to door, and also tavern to tavern, asking for free drinks and food. And in my experience in folklore and legend, Dave, when some legend results in free alcohol and food, it tends to catch on.
Yeah, sign me up. How do I get involved? Unless, of course, that's salted meat by Père Fouettard or whatever his name was. Yeah, Père Fouettard.
Yeah. So the whipping father. Yeah. So the crazy thing about this story, though, is that it's been Christianized, although we think it's been around for many, many centuries and survived in like a single village in Wales. But then as the internet got popular and things like that, it started to spread again. And a dead horse rising from the grave has been around in legend and lore for millennia, and it's seen as a symbol of power and so on. So in Monmouthshire, Wales, I think 2 years ago, they had this Christmas parade, and there were multiple Māori loads. There was the horse dancing figure going through the streets. So it's catching on.
No, Jeff, those are just bronies.
Oh, right.
Those are nothing more than bronies. You were watching the wrong film footage of that scene.
My mistake.
The brony culture is offended by your choice there.
So I'm curious if they're going to make it out of Wales and make it over to Europe, make it over to the U.S.
That is interesting.
We just need a horse head.
Well, that's all. They got to be easy to come by, right? I think if you just check out in most McDonald's garbage dumpsters, you should find a few.
Don't ruin that for me.
There's a new sponsor we won't be getting. All right, what are some of the other? Well, screw them. They didn't bring the McRib to the Twin Cities, Jeff. I have no love for the McDonald's Corporation right now.
They drew first blood then.
Yes, exactly. Right. There's a point. It's all over, but not in Minnesota, not in Minneapolis. Keep your damn horsehide food. I don't need it. I was willing to forgive the worm in the McNugget, which is the gift that keeps on giving. In the sense of the holiday spirit, but Jeff, I can't forgive dodging me on the processed pork sandwich. It's heartbreak. Let's go into some of the other strange versions. Now, in the song it talks about tales of the glory and ghost stories and all of that. Was it really part of the tradition to sit around on Christmas Eve and tell ghost stories?
It was, and if you think about there's two stories I want to bring up for you. One, the greatest horror poem ever written, and I'm going to go so far as to say ever will be written, is The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe. And it starts, I remember that bleak December. It is a classic setting. But the most famous ghost story ever published, probably in any realm, is a Christmas ghost story by Charles Dickens called A Christmas Carol. And that story became wildly popular because it's so good. We tell it, we read it each year. We've seen it on performed in plays. It was published December 19th, 1843, and since then it has just exploded and been done and redone in every conceivable media that we have. And that story is about redemption, right? Scrooge is us. That's why we identify with Scrooge. We are Scrooge. Every year we get older, we get a little more, miserly, and we don't want to do things, and I don't care what's this about. And then we're saved, though.
Well, maybe you should speak for yourself, my friend. I don't know that all of us kind of line up with Scrooge. I think Tim is definitely Tiny Tim. I find myself more the Bob Cratchit to your Ebenezer Scrooge.
Fair enough. I'm still not giving you a raise, though. But so this Scrooge figure, first you've got Jacob Marley shows up. His spirit shows up and says, "Look, Scrooge, you're on this bad track. You're not, it's not going well. You're going to end up like me. But you have a chance, and the chance comes from three more spirits that are going to visit you tonight. And the first is the ghost of Christmas past. And in the book version, and in some of the more classical movie versions, the ghost of Christmas past is depicted as a candle flame." And that candle flame is that hope from the past, where when Scrooge was a child, Christmas was a happy time, and he had friends, and he had family, and so on. But as he gets older, he watches his heart kind of harden. And at some point, Scrooge tries to snuff out the candle, the ghost of Christmas past. I can't see this anymore. It's too painful to relive my past, to see how happy I was, and then how I soured over time through, becoming more enamored with business and making money than loving another person and having a family and all that other stuff and friendships. And then the ghost of Christmas present is this very Santa-like figure who's very jovial and a lot of fun, but under his robe he hides two emaciated children, a boy and a girl, and he says, "The boy is ignorance, the girl is want. Beware of both of them." Because it's so easy to be in our modern day lives and just, go ahead and just take care of ourselves, and if I'm okay, then nothing else matters. But if we're ignorant to what others need, then are we really living in a society where we just take care of ourselves? And that's where Scrooge is at, obviously. He's just like, hey, I'm okay, then who cares about the rest of the world? And that's not a good position. And then the Ghost of Christmas Future really doesn't need much explanation. This is the path you're on, and this is where you're heading, and when you die, no one's going to care. They're going to laugh about it because you're a monster. And that's his chance. And that's the beauty of that story, right? You wake up Christmas morning redeemed after a single night, completely redeemed, a chance to change everything, soften your heart, give to others, help others, and find the joy in that. And that's why I think we need that ghost story every year. And so it's a tradition in some families to watch that movie or read that story. But there were other ghost stories. Women's magazines used to publish ghost stories you can read at the fireplace at Christmas time. And that was very common. Oh, listen to this year's ghost story. It's a tradition that was around the world, especially in Europe and in England. Christmas Eve was absolutely a night for ghost stories. And we got away from that. And I think it's too bad. I think it's a wonderful tradition. And the good thing is you can have it. Anyone listening out there, it's yours. Do it. Do it this year. Go find one online, go to the library, take out books, find great classic ghost stories, and read one. You can bring that element of fear back into this tradition because that's where it started. Why not bring it back?
It sounds so funny, though, doesn't it? You can be part of the change. You can bring the fear back to Christmas where it belongs.
Well, I think when you break down this holiday into all its original pieces and see how, I know the Coca-Cola company had a big influence on what Santa looks like and stuff like that, and he went commercial, and it's easy to get upset about all that stuff, but it's also easy to take the very best parts of it and put it back together. I mentioned earlier about hanging the wreath on my front door. Well, it comes from a Nordic tradition where they looked at this bleak winter landscape and said, man, winter kills everything. It kills all the plants and flowers and grass and trees, everything, except these evergreens, except the holly bushes. There was a few plants and trees that were more powerful than winter. Obviously, they must be imbibed with some kind of magic. And so they would hang those boughs over their doors and windows because the prickly needles would keep out the bad spirits and keep the good spirit inside. And when you think about that, man, I was way more on board with hanging the wreath this year. Just like, all right, I do want to keep the bad spirits out, and I want to keep the good spirits in. I truly do. And now it has more meaning when I put the wreath up this year.
That is pretty amazing, right? It is something that survives the coldest, harshest climates, and where everything, your tundra is plastered in white, and it just looks devoid of life and reality. At least that's what happens here in Minnesota. Although I've been watching the news for the last few years, we haven't had to dig out like you guys on the East Coast have as much. So I think you guys might be on Santa's naughty list much more than we are. But yeah, that's an amazing emblem, right? It's this, we have life here. It's this sign of overcoming and still being there. That's a pretty resounding statement to make.
And that's why we bring those trees into our homes during this time of year, because it's more powerful than death. And it's a reminder we will get through this just like the evergreen does. We're strong and resilient. And let me bring up one more little great nugget. The Norse people, the evergreen, all trees were sacred. They very much viewed their surroundings as sacred, but evergreens especially were more sacred. And they would take the bloody entrails, like the intestines, from their slaughtered animals and sacrifices, and they would drape them around the evergreen tree. As the blood and entrails drip, the red and the green became symbolic of this time of year, and now we do things like string popcorn and cranberries to to symbolize what used to be animal intestines.
Yeah, that's I prefer just stringing some popcorn around my tree.
Hey, you do it your way. We'll do it ours. I go to the grocery store. Yeah, do you have, 20, 30 feet of, intestines that you could just go ahead and let me put around the Christmas tree?
Hey, Clark, those are some mighty good-looking intestines you got on the tree this year.
Yep. I know a guy.
All right, talk to me about some more of the famous. Well, you know what? Let's do this. Talking about famous aspects of Christmas, we played the brand new instant Christmas classic, Krampus Night. I feel it's only fair, Jeff, with your permission, of course, to regale our audience. And since we're talking of tales of ghost stories, let's talk and let's play for our audience your original. I still can't say it without cracking up. Your original musical masterpiece, which I do want people to realize, this isn't just some drunk guy in his basement with a synthesizer creating music. This song actually got on an album.
I know, with Cheap Trick and Eddie Money. Dude, I got bragging rights for life. Why are you laughing at me? I'm really talented.
It's on an album with Cheap Trick and Eddie Money. Who? I just want to know whose peppermint stick you had to rub to get that on there. Let's well, a little Christmas treat from your buddies at Beyond the Darkness and Jeff Belanger. This is My Christmas Tree is Haunted.
Jingle bells are on the floor. I said my Christmas tree is haunted. Jingle bells are on the floor. There's footsteps in my attic and strange knocks upon my door. Who could it be? Well, there's tinsel on the treetop and the ground is snowy white. Yeah, there's tinsel on the treetop. The ground is snowy white. A shadow's lurking by my window, and it's giving me a fright. I think my Christmas tree is haunted. The balls just shimmy and shake. I said my Christmas tree is haunted. The balls just shimmy and shake. Well, I think I'm hearing voices, and they're keeping me awake. Why can't they just shut up? It's a festive kind of season. I don't know why the ghosts are here. I said it's a festive kind of season. I don't know why the ghosts are here. I've got some Christmas spirits. Those footsteps ain't no reindeer. You know what I'm saying? I think my Christmas tree is haunted. Half the twinkling lights are out. I said my Christmas tree is haunted, 'cause half the twinkling lights are out. I think it might be Grandma. Maybe the old girl's still about. She died last year, you know. Oh, sing your Christmas carol, son. No, not that one. I hate that one. Come on, sing me another one. I don't know about that one. Oh, just forget it. I think my Christmas tree is haunted. Jingle bells are on the floor. I said my Christmas tree is haunted. Jingle bells are on the floor. There's footsteps in my attic and strange knocks upon my door. Who could that be? Oh man, it ain't right. I shouldn't be scared like this on Christmas. I should be making merry and drinking eggnog, you know? Maybe I need to call me some ghost hunters or something. Whew. I don't know. I guess I just gotta learn to live with it, you know? Well, Merry Christmas anyway. Merry Christmas.
As always, a complete joy, and I hope it raised tens of dollars for whatever charity.
Yeah, no, I think they were able to feed a whole quarter of a family.
Let's see. We've got Cheap Trick. That's pretty good. That's our marquee player. We got this old homeless guy claims to be Eddie Money. and this young upstart Jeff Belanger, the Amadeus of our times.
So there was a concert, and Eddie Money was the headliner. Cheap Trick was not there, but Eddie Money's the headliner, and it was in New Bedford, Massachusetts. And so I got to go there and help set up and do the whole thing and all that other stuff. And I'm backstage, and this guy with like this flannel shirt walks by, and it's just, I'm like, hey man, you can't be back here.
Aren't you supposed to be out there? We're raising money for you.
It's like, oh, that's Eddie Money. I went, sorry.
No, you were right. You can't be back here. You should have stuck with it.
I'm going to need you to wait outside by the dumpster until it's time for the show. But
what smells like bad 80s hits and desperation and a little bit of urinal cake? I think it's Eddie Money.
and once he got on stage, though, man, dude started singing, and you forget how many hits that guy wrote. Like, you're like, oh, you think of one or two. Like, no, it was like a dozen songs that you know.
It was
that was my brush with greatness.
That's awesome. I wish he would have had a brush with deodorant. That's all I'm saying. There's another advertiser. Eddie Money's never going to advertise on our show along with McDonald's at this point.
Yeah, no, but it was a good time. It was just really cool to do stuff like that. And I don't know, man. You know how it is. You make stuff. You make podcasts. You make shows. You make songs.
No,
whatever.
And I do. I love the song. I just joke with you. It's a great.
No,
it's a paranormal Christmas tune, and that's awesome. Speaking of scary things at Christmas, when you and we grew up, I mean, we were not exactly right on top of each other on age, but we're pretty close. Do you remember one of the scariest Christmas traditions that we grew up with in the 70s and 80s?
Which one?
Putting McDonald's gift certificates on the Christmas tree.
Oh, right.
Do you remember that actually being a thing, Jeff? Because I do. I remember looking forward to McDonald's gift certificates as part of my Christmas coffer. I just... What happened to that, Tim? To Jeff? You're Jeff, not Tim. Sorry. You two look so similar over radio. I can't discern.
Right.
But what happened to those innocent pure times when we knew that we were going to get that, the Lone Ranger and silver action figures, and there'd be $10 or $20 worth of McDonald's gift certificate that could feed us for about a month, if I recall correctly. Now, I go in with $20 worth of gift certificates for myself, and I still owe $5 in cash. Those were a different, simpler time, but still terrifying when you think about it.
Yeah, so I can tell you what happened.
Please.
We're just not as good as we were back then. We get less gifts now.
There is true. That is true. Yeah, my Christmas has certainly dried up considerably as I've had children. Santa is, I don't know, he forgets I'm the one that's helping to repopulate the earth. I should be the Lord Father who's given more gifts, but it just seems I get less and less every year, while my children just continue to be, suffocated in really cool and expensive things that their father can't possibly afford. So Santa is the big hero. Pair of socks.
So, and you're not Grinchy at all.
No, pair of socks under the tree. No, all right. Maybe I'm a little Scroogey.
Yeah, see, there it is. That's how it starts. And next thing you know, you're going to be like, humbug, all of you, out.
All right. How about stockings? Was there any darkness to why we hung our stockings up by our chimney with care?
They smell.
So you were just trying to dry the wet stockings?
That's exactly where it started. So this was a common thing. You did this every night. Your sweaty, wet feet all day. You come home and you got to make these things last. So you would hang them by the fireplace so they would dry out and warm up. And in the morning you could put them on and they're nice and toasty. And so that became a place. Originally, Nicholas from Myra, Turkey, was a wealthy boy who was born to a rich family, and he became an orphan. But he was able to keep his wealth, and he joined the priesthood. And he decided he didn't want his money. He was happier giving it away and helping others. So he was known to just bestow gifts on people everywhere. And people would leave their shoes outside of their home at night, and he would slide gold coins and things like that and small gifts into the shoes. and then the shoes, became the stockings, became by the chimney with care, and so on. So it started with the shoes money, and then it moved to the stockings.
That's nice. What about coal? I would have thought, you're always threatened with coal. And back in the day, wouldn't that have been like perceived as a good gift because it would help keep your family warm and cook your food?
Yeah, so there was a time when coal was given, where that was a good gift. It was like, hell, thank you, we can be warm for a day. Sticks and coal would start a nice warm fire for you. And over time, as technology improved and so on, and people were using less coal, and gift giving became, a gift is something that was not necessarily needed, but an extravagance. That's what makes a great gift, right? Like, oh, socks, or oh my gosh, an Xbox. Like you'd need socks. Xbox you could live without, depending on who you ask, I guess.
Not my children.
So, right.
They walk around without shoes and socks on, but they need their Xbox.
Yeah, fair enough. It keeps them warm if they stay close enough to it. So I that was a time when, and so once we transitioned to more extravagant gifts, then the coal was like a throwback. Like, oh yeah, you weren't that good. So it became, coal and sticks is like this. Oh man, really? Like that was the ultimate practical gift, the ultimate insult. I didn't go through any effort. Here, have some coal. So yeah, it went from a great gift to one of insult.
Well, that's a shame because I think that would be a good gift to give to people, especially in today's environment. Again, have you ever, do you ever have moments in your life where you were afraid you were going to wake up to a stocking full of coal? I can tell you, as a father, there's been a few years where I've been afraid my children are going to wake up to a stocking full of coal. But do you ever remember that as being a real fear for yourself growing up?
So I was raised Catholic, and when you're Catholic, you go. I mean, I went through all the rigmarole: first confession, first communion, baptism, the confirmation, the whole thing, all of it. And confession was always this thing, and you start young, when you go to confession, and that's where you know all about confession, Dave. So you
I
go
don't. I'm a Lutheran.
Right.
We don't confess nothing to nobody.
Yeah, that dies with me. So confession was this time where you literally had to take stock of your sins and then sit in front of the priest or in that little chamber and confess what you've done. And you sit there going like, all right, what did I do? And you start thinking about the last month or two and what you've been doing that was bad, and you say it all, and then you get your penance and you say your penance and you move on with your life. Christmas was like the ultimate. So Christmas Eve, you're sitting there going, oh boy, in the last year, I remember I broke that table. Remember? Oh, the lamp. I broke the lamp too. And I scratched Dad's car. And my mom was so mad that one time, like she wouldn't talk to me for like 2 days. Oh boy, like how do I get out of this? And you're taking stock of all your sins for the year and thinking like, man, I'm not getting anything in the morning. And yeah, it was a real fear. Christmas Eve, I remember going to bed being like, I remember asking my mom and my dad, like, was I good enough to get presents this year? That sweet little innocent voice.
Meanwhile, the house is burning down behind you.
Right.
Did I do that?
Oops.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that was a real fear, growing up. And then you realize, man, most kids are good. And of course they are. And we all make mistakes throughout the year, but it's easy to take stock of them that night and think about all the bad things you did. And will Santa bring me something? That's a scary moment.
You live a charmed life. You're on albums with with Eddie Money and Cheap Trick. You're good looking. You're able to climb Mount Kilimanjaro and return to talk about it. You've got children that are good. Your life is the life I covet, my friend. I just don't know how this happened.
I agree with you. I really
on the other side, you have friends like me, so I guess it all evens out in the end.
There's balance. Yeah, you're my one of my penance projects. I remember the priest saying, "This guy's going to come along, Dave. It'll be years from now.
He'll be your Belsnickel."
But he's going to need some help. Let him play the Christmas song. The one with Eddie Money, that was cool.
That'll be the payback. All right, I know you've got to get going. We've got to get rolling here. What are a few of the last few thoughts on Christmas and the creepy aspects of Christmas you'd like to impart on our listeners today?
I truly believe that this is a tradition and a holiday that we reinvent every single year. You're allowed to bring in what works for you and keep out what doesn't work for you. Hang the wreath. Let those prickly needles keep out all the stuff you don't like about it, the commercialism, the wanting, the screaming, the this or that. Keep it out and keep the good stuff in. And these monsters are there to remind us of the consequence. And I say they have a place. If they didn't have a place, we wouldn't talk about them. We wouldn't have had this show. And that's important to remember. So instead of getting so upset and stressed out about it, man, it really is a time to celebrate. It's got such complex roots, not just where we commemorate the birth of Jesus, but it's St. Nicholas, it's Saturnalia, it's Yule, it's so many different cultures and traditions coming together, mixing up into what we need it to be today. And if it's not what you need it to be today, then change it. You're allowed to. You can do it in your house, in your community. And if it's a good idea, like going door to door and asking for free food and alcohol, it will catch on.
And I'll tell you what, here's another great tradition. Save this episode. Download it, save it, keep it, and share it on Christmas with your friends and family. They'll enjoy the laughter, the camaraderie, the history, the fun facts, and the chilling backstories of all of these great characters that we've heard today. And that'll be just, I think, Jeff, that's my gift to the world, to the universe, really, is the gift of me and more of me on this show. So thank you for letting me be a part of your new Christmas classic song, Jeff, and thank you again always for sharing this part of the year with us and enlightening us to the frightening facts behind one of our favorite holidays.
Thank you, Dave, and I would like to apologize to all your listeners that this is a gift you can't return.
That's it for today. We'll be back tomorrow when we talk miracles and angels, and don't roll your eyes at me, people. It's going to be a heartwarming, loving show. Plus, you get a brand new Theater of the Mind from me, Darkness Dave. I'm going to be sharing one of my true Christmas miracles, and I hope you'll tune in to check it out. That's tomorrow on the Best in Paranormal Talk Radio. And remember to check out Jeff Belanger every week with OurNewEnglandLegends.com. You are going to absolutely love these micro podcasts that he puts out. You love all the stuff you heard tonight. Keep in tune and check out his show. And the best part is, it is the gift that keeps on giving. It's completely free. Go sign up and listen to him now. We'll be back again tomorrow right here on Beyond the Darkness.